In today's episode of the Stay at Home Nurse podcast, I will be answering 2 listener questions. Should you play it safe and take a hospital job with less money that is not work from home, or stay with a temporary to permanent position that is work from home and pays better? And are there any flexible positions that can be worked from wherever you are, from a laptop or the mountains with satellite internet? Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle, whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. Welcome to this week's episode of the Stay at Home Nurse podcast. On today's episode, I will be answering listener questions. I love these kinds of episodes because I know I'm giving you what you want because you asked for it. I wanted to let you know that I do change the names to protect the privacy of the person asking the question, unless it is explicitly stated that I can use their name. And this is only my opinion based on the information given. Ultimately, you have to make a decision that you're comfortable with. Okay, on with the show. Our first question comes from Amber. Amber writes, after listening to the episode, Why Do Insurance Companies Lay Off Case Managers and How Can You Reduce the Risk?, I have a question regarding something I am currently struggling with. I am working with a health plan that is temporary with the potential of becoming permanent. It is a contract, and depending on how I do, I may or may not become permanent. I should also say that this is a work-from-home, 100% telephonic case management position, ideal being work from home. Anyway, I just received an offer in a local hospital as a hospital case manager. Great hospital, much less pay. I am trying to figure out what to do. You had stated, if you can keep the company you have a contract with happy, you will increase the chance of keeping the contract. If I stick to the work-from-home position, what if I work really hard to keep the contract, but my case management colleagues, whom I have no control over, don't own the position like I do, and we end up losing the contract anyway, and the department gets laid off? Should I play it safe and take the hospital position, even though it's not work from home and pays way less? I would love for you to do an episode on this topic if possible. Well, we are doing an episode on this topic. This is actually a really good topic, and I have been planning to do an episode on it, so I want to thank you for your feedback because now it got moved to the top of the list. Now, first of all, I want to state that it is not common for contracts to be lost. Most of the time, the contract will be renewed, but it does happen, and this is the number one reason why insurance company case managers do get laid off, because the contract is lost. So, things that you can do is ask around. Does this company have a history of laying off? Do they have a history of losing contracts? You can do a Google search and look and see if there's a history of this, or you can ask people that are currently working for the company. If they do lay off, do they find other positions for the people if they lose a contract, or do they end up laying off and they never get to work for them again? Next, what is your relationship like with your current company? Do you have a good relationship with your manager? Do you have a good relationship with the HR department? Do you feel like you can trust them? Do they have a good reputation? And have you talked to anyone else who went from temporary to permanent? If so, what was their experience like? Some places will tell you that they will move you from temporary to permanent in 6 weeks or after 1 contract or 6 months, and then they keep extending it. And they have a reputation for this. By asking around, you'll know if this is a case. Other companies are very good about letting you go through the contract one time, and then they will hire you immediately if they decide they want to keep you. So just find out what the company culture is like, and if this is a place that you would actually like to continue to work for. Now, another thing to consider, what will the pay be if you are brought on full-time with the health plan? Sometimes, but not always, full-time work actually pays less because of the other benefits that you do not get as a temp. such as healthcare benefits, 401k, retirement, pension, all of those types of things. So find out if your pay will actually be the same if you go to full-time with the company and get brought on. Next, have you negotiated your salary with a hospital? Sometimes you get a really low initial offer, but if you negotiate, let them know you have experience and that you're getting X amount of dollars somewhere else and you do not want to take a pay cut, they may somehow come up with more money. Then, how important is the money? For some people, they are living paycheck to paycheck and they need to make the same amount of money they're currently making. Other people have a sense of security being more important than the actual money. So which is more important to you, the sense of security in a job or the amount of money that you make? Now, I do have to say that even a hospital case management job isn't 100% secure. Now that we've seen what's happened with COVID, there really is no such thing as job security anymore. Even nurses are getting laid off. So there are some jobs that are more secure than others. I don't want to give you a false sense that insurance company jobs are not secure. I know people that have worked for them for 20 years and are perfectly happy and will retire with them. I just wanted to make sure you understood that they do sometimes lay off if they lose a contract, and that is one of the most common reasons why they would lay off. But again, even a hospital job is not 100% secure. Okay, the last thing I want to ask you is, what is your ultimate goal? If your ultimate goal is to work from home, and there is a strong likelihood that you will be able to continue working from home, stay where you are. You'll be gaining valuable experience, and in the unlikely event that you do have to move on, you will make connections that will help you to easily find another position. You'll have leads just in case that worst case scenario thing happens. Okay, our next question is from Susan. Susan writes, I am an RN of 38 years. I was introduced to your podcast and then ultimately your site through Janine Kelbach's Savvy Scribe podcast. I'm currently working with Janine through her courses and hopefully her upcoming mastermind class. My work as an RN has worked around my husband's schedule, the birth and education of my 4 now adult children, moving a couple of times, and then the care of my elderly parents. I have worked in ICU, CCU upon graduation for about 14 years, though part-time. Utilization review and case management, med-surg, triage in the ED, and I helped to form a case management department in a Royal Critical Access Hospital. I have also instructed AHA, BLS, and ACLS classes. I loved my last job as a case manager with Kaiser Permanente. I needed to leave my position there as I was being pulled with the oversight and care of my 2 elderly, failing parents. The job was an hour away from my home, and I was falling asleep battling the numerous big rigs on the windy mountain road. My retired husband could not understand why I wanted to continue with the job with everything that I had on my plate. However, I can't seem to hang up my nursing hat. I love the computer. I love helping people. I have looked into part-time work from home, but the thing that fails me in the regular part-time work for a company is that my husband likes to pick up and go, and my mountain internet connection is satellite with no promise of ever getting cable. So that's when I stumbled upon the content writing with Janine. Content healthcare writing would allow me to research, write, and produce on my own connection. Yet for some reason, I am not as confident as if it were a UR or CM position. I wondered if you know of any other work that I am not considering as I move forward in the considerations. Per diem jobs? Piece jobs? Doesn't sound like nursing at all, but I thought I would ask. Any other type of more flexible position that can work wherever I am from a laptop or in the mountains with satellite internet. I'm a mere 59 years old and can see me working in some manner helping others until I'm 70. Thank you for your input. Okay, Susan, first of all, I want you to know that you are a great writer. My reading did not do justice to the writing you did in your letter. When I read it, my first thought was, wow, this girl can write. So, confidence comes with time. You probably weren't confident with your first IV stick, or your first vent patient, or your first trach patient. I remember my first Foley. My hands were sweating underneath my gloves so bad I thought I would never be able to get this Foley in. But remember, with time comes confidence, and with experience comes confidence. You love the computer and you love helping people, so content writing would be a great fit for you. But I do want to go over just a few other ideas. As an employee, you may want to do something like HEDIS. This is seasonal work. it meets the computer, but not the helping people criteria that you have. It's something that I have not done, so I don't have a lot of information on it, but I think if you did a quick Google search, you could find more information on HEDIS, and maybe this is something that you would do for a short period of time, for a season. The season is only a couple months long, where you would do the HEDIS work and then be able to travel with your husband at other times of the year. Another idea is working for URAC, NCQA, or something like that as an auditor. Now, you would have to travel on site, but if your husband likes traveling, that's something he may want to do with you. Or you could also work for a company that does the mock audits. It's very flexible. So this is a type of job where they would say, hey, we need somebody to go to this city for this amount of time. And you would either say yes or no. And you're indirectly helping people with this, and you would be using your computer skills. Another thing I thought of is a medical device patient service representative. This is a job that I had. I worked for Zoll, and we fitted the patients with the Zoll Life Vest, which is an external wearable defibrillator. It was really cool. It was the same thing. They would call me and say, hey, we have a patient that needs fitted today. This is where they live. Do you want to take it or not? And if I took it, I would go. If I was in the area and I was off and I was able to, I could accept it. If not, they would call the next person on the list. So this is something that you could do when in your geographical area, if they happen to have a need. There are other companies that hire for people like this. Also, not in the employee realm, but more in the entrepreneurial realm. Have you thought about being a consultant? With your case management background and opening a case management department, you may want to be a consultant that would go in and help to open or restructure other case management departments. Again, this would be on site and it would be temporary, but you might go somewhere for 6 weeks. Again, if it's somewhere that your husband wanted to travel to, you would just go for a short period of time and then you would be done and you could relax or write or whatever when you're off. Also, something to do with training and how to increase the metrics in a case management department, that would be another thing that you could be a consultant for. And what about training and courses for utilization managers and case managers? Something like what I'm doing. We have a lot of questions that are asked in our case managers community for a care plan book for case managers. So if that's something you want to write, there's a need for that out there. If you have any ideas that you would like to collaborate with me on, shoot me an email and we can talk about it. Another thing, you might want to create continuing education. Again, this is along the writing aspect, but just other things that you can do other than just writing content for blogs and for books. And I'm sure Janine will be talking more about this in her course. So these are just a few off the top of my head. I'm sure there are a lot of things that I'm missing. So if anybody has any ideas, I invite you to go to our website. We'll have a link below for the Stay at Home Nurse podcast. And in the comments, write in some other things and ideas that you think may be a good fit for Susan. Or you can go to our Facebook group, the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast Facebook group, and in there, give Susan some ideas of some things you think she might be a good fit for. Okay, that's a wrap for this week's episode. If you have a question you would like answered, shoot me an email at hello@thestayathomenurse.podcast.com. I can't wait to read your email. And if you find this podcast helpful, I would love it if you would leave a rating and review. I actually read every one of the reviews. I love reading them. It just makes my day. So if you would take the time to do that, I would be eternally grateful.